Top 7 Creepiest Traditions from the Past. What if I told you some of the creepiest horror scenes were not invented by filmmakers? They were inspired by real traditions people actually followed. In the past, people photographed the dead, ate sins at funerals, used human remains as medicine, and even sacrificed people because they believed the sun depended on it. Today, we're counting down the top 7 creepiest traditions from the past. And stay until number 1 because the final tradition was performed in front of huge crowds, and people believed the survival of the world depended on it. Number 7. Mummy unwrapping parties. Today, ancient mummies are protected in museums and treated with respect. But in 19th century Europe, some wealthy people treated them like party entertainment. During Egyptomania, Europeans became obsessed with ancient Egypt. They collected statues, jewelry, coffins, and sometimes real mummies. Then came mummy unwrapping parties. Guests gathered in a room while a real Egyptian mummy was placed in front of them. Then, layer by layer, the wrappings were removed as everyone watched. To them, it was mysterious and fashionable, but in reality, it was horrifying. This was not just an artifact. This was once a living person, buried with meaning, prepared for the afterlife. And centuries later, strangers opened their remains for entertainment. The creepiest part? They didn't see it as disrespectful, they saw it as culture. Number 6. Sin eating. In parts of Wales, England, and nearby regions, there was once a funeral custom called sin eating. When someone died, a poor person or social outsider was called to the home. Bread and sometimes ale was placed near the dead body. The sin eater would eat it, symbolically taking the dead person's sins into himself. The belief was terrifying. The dead person could now pass on peacefully, but the sin eater had to carry their spiritual burden. People needed him, but they also feared him. He was seen as cursed, unclean, and dangerous. Imagine eating bread beside a corpse, while everyone believes the dead person's darkness now lives inside you. A meal for the dead, and a curse for the living. Number 5. Corpse medicine. For centuries in Europe, some people believed the human body could be used as medicine. This was called corpse medicine. People consumed powdered mummy, human fat, blood, bones, and even skull material because they believed it could heal illness. Yes, powdered mummies were once sold as medicine. Some believed human blood could help with epilepsy. Others believed fat from dead bodies could treat wounds and pain. Skull powder was also believed to have healing power. To us, it sounds like a nightmare. But back then, medicine was mixed with superstition, religion, and desperation. And that is what makes it so creepy. It wasn't done by monsters. It was done by people trying to survive. Imagine going to a doctor and being given medicine made from the dead. Number 4. Footbinding. For around 1,000 years in China, many young girls had their feet tightly bound to make them smaller. This was called footbinding. It usually started when girls were very young. Their feet were wrapped tightly with cloth, forcing the bones into an unnatural shape. These tiny feet were called lotus feet and became a symbol of beauty, status, and marriageability. But behind that beauty was years of pain. Walking became difficult. The body was permanently damaged. Girls suffered because society decided small feet were elegant. The creepiest part is not just the pain, it is how normal it became. Mothers did it to daughters because they believed it would give them a better future. Families accepted it because society rewarded it. Pain became beauty, and cruelty became tradition. Number 3. Self-Mummification. In Japan, some Buddhist monks practiced an extreme form of devotion known as self-mummification. The goal was to preserve their own bodies after death through years of discipline, fasting, and meditation. The process could take years. A monk would slowly reduce his food intake, eating a special diet to remove fat from the body. Eventually, he would enter a small tomb-like space and continue meditating until death. In some accounts, there was a small air tube and a bell. As long as the bell rang, people outside knew the monk was still alive. Then one day, the bell stopped. After some time, the tomb was opened. If the body had been preserved, the monk was honored. To believers, it was spiritual sacrifice. But from the outside, it is chilling. A living person sitting in darkness, preparing his own body for death. Number 2. Sati. In parts of South Asian history, there was a practice known as Sati, where a widow was burned on her husband's funeral pyre. This practice was not followed by everyone, and it was always complex and controversial. But where it happened, it became one of the most disturbing funeral customs in history. The idea was that a wife showed ultimate devotion by joining her husband in death. But the reality was often darker. Some women were pressured. Some had little choice. Some were treated as if life without a husband had no value. Imagine a funeral where the grief is not only for the dead man, but also for the living woman expected to die beside him. That is what makes Sati terrifying. It shows how tradition can become dangerous when society values an idea more than a human life. Number 1. Aztec human sacrifice. In the Aztec world, human sacrifice was one of the most terrifying religious practices in history. The Aztecs believed the universe depended on balance. The sun had to keep moving, the gods had to be honored, and blood was seen as a powerful offering. To them, sacrifice was not random cruelty, it was cosmic duty. They believed that without offerings, the sun might weaken, crops might fail, and the world could fall into darkness. Victims could be war captives, slaves, or chosen individuals. Ceremonies happened at temples, sometimes in front of huge crowds. Imagine standing below a temple pyramid, watching a sacrifice, while everyone around you believes this is why tomorrow's sun will rise. That is what makes it so chilling. It was death turned into religion, ceremony, and survival. And that is the disturbing truth behind all 7 traditions. They were not creepy only because they involved death, pain, or fear. They were creepy because people believed they were necessary. So the next time someone says, "It's just tradition," remember this list. Because not every tradition deserves to survive. Some belong exactly where they are, buried in the past.